I've been on the internet since 1988, and back then it was a simpler time. We had nerds all over the world playing multi-user dungeons, downloading 132 character ASCII porn, and arguing with each other on Usenet. Fast forward 30 years and things have changed a little bit. Now the three core purposes of the internet, gaming, porn and arguments, have been industrialised, and now there's sites dedicated to serving you up with one of those three things at every moment of the day. But how are you going to survive on the internet? Today I've got a panel of Meg and our social Jason warrior to go through a few little tips on how you're going to survive the internet and stay sane in a world where you can talk to anybody in the world at any time, but they're all wrong.
Yeah.
So
why would you? Yeah.
That is a fabulous intro if I've ever heard one. Well done.
on the fly. So here we go. Well, we'll go straight to one tip.
Yeah.
And stop arguing. Now, there's a little bit of detail. These are my clickbait headlines. Now, this is a tip for myself. If you are arguing, and I've learned this over many years, just give 3 responses.
Yep.
Don't repeat yourself. It's too easy to get sucked into going on and on and on. Now, one of the things you have in an argument is if you keep going, you look like a crazy person.
Yeah.
And you actually would prefer the other person to look like a crazy person rather than yourself, unless you are genuinely crazy. So 3 responses, don't repeat yourself. Comment generally. If you get sucked into something talking about actual personalities, try and keep it general, like not somebody did this, that I think this is right or wrong, because that's going to be better when somebody comes back and looks at that a long time later with no context to go by. So just keep that, don't look crazy.
I just happened the other day. I actually have a perfect example of this, and it was an anti-vax thing. Surprise, surprise, right? And so she's on there and she's like, I'm just asking questions. Like, did you know that I'm just asking questions? And I'm like, no, you're not. You're being deliberately, you're either being deliberately insidious or you're a moron. And you can pick one, but it's one of those two, right? You either believe that you're telling the truth, and I just left it at, stop spreading this nonsense. And then it was, oh, where's your proof? And I'm like, it's not about proof. You've been shown time and again proof that you're not listening to. It's not about that. And for anyone reading this is going to see you for the absolutely insane person that you are. And I left it at 2. And that was it. The second, and she was baiting. She kept throwing them out there. Who the fuck? You've got a cartoon character for your picture, which I do, but that's fine. Whatever. If a cartoon character's smarter than you, that's not saying. Yeah,
okay, wait. I just don't ever comment. I just love to sit there and read the troll comments and giggle with friends in real life and be like, check this out. I don't actually indulge.
Yeah. I'll get to a point about that later, because a lot of people do watch, and Twitter's something of a coliseum, where most people are there just to watch the Lions and the Christians fight. Not always those two, but yes. Most people are there for that. So we'll come back to one related to that now. One for Megan here. Everything's public.
Pretty much, I reckon you should be careful what you say online, because your presence is your brand. I recruit people for a living, and the first thing I do when I get a big fat resume is check out all their socials. It's the first thing I do, because not only is maybe they're going to have their Facebook on private, they might have one profile pic, and that's fine. Yeah. And it's usually them with a beer in their hand, but then all the others are a little bit trickier. So I get to see on Twitter, their Instagram, hashtag, other things people tag you in.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like tagged photos, which is the cracker, but I think it's really important to not forget actually a really recent incident
with James Gunn.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not only has he, someone's gone into the backlogs of Twitter 10 years ago and found these tweets of things that he said many moons ago, which were troll posts that he wrote them to cycle a conversation just like we're discussing right now, and someone's found them, resurfaced them, and he's been pulled from being the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
And this goes to your point even further, because it wasn't just Disney knew about him, everyone knew about him, he'd already apologised for him, but the particular concerned trolls went out of their way to find them, make a point of them, because he'd made a point about Roseanne being fired recently for saying what she had. So there are people out there whose end game is just to prove a point.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you will be the fodder of that point.
Yeah.
There's a concerned troll war that's been going on for a few years now. And I know, we've had 2 occasions where people have tried to get people to contact the show over myself and things I've said. So one was over AFL, the other was over gaming.
Yeah.
So look,
they're the 3 things you can't criticise online: video games, Essendon Football Club, and Israel. I'll get angry emails about all 3 of those.
All right, now before we get sidetracked there, but there is a concerned troll war going on, and you do have at the moment. Now, when you get, and this happened with gaming, we were sort of like the victims of two bigger forces that were going to fight anywhere, and they just chose us to fight around. So, and you've got that at the moment. They're going to go after anybody of any significance because they're proving a point. They're fighting a battle that's never going to be done. And what you don't want to be, as we touched on, is you don't want to be part of that. And that's why I say keep things general. Don't say blah 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 because things will come back. But you can still say. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having an opinion.
But you just got to realise, like, and I mean, I'm the worst person to talk about this because I'm the worst opinionated person in the world at the best of times. But it is that thing of you just kind of got to watch what you say. Like, make your point, but make it clean. Don't drag any particular person in if you don't have it. And if you've got anything, you need to back it with evidence. So, like, put a link,
factual.
show something that actually agrees with, like, not necessarily agrees with what you're saying, but proves what you're saying.
Correct.
Like, and have
Justify
that
your
conversation.
point.
Exactly.
100%.
All right, now it's one that I feel very strongly about, and in my close, I'm going to address this again. Is learn to ignore. Now, the fact is that you can't control internet randoms. You can control yourself, and if you want to have a war with people who normally hang out on places like 4chan, you're not going to win because you can't shame them. You can't make them feel bad. That's just what they do. They are either strange or they're just chronic shit stirrers. So learn to scroll. Sometimes you're going to see things. Well, actually, no, not sometimes. Most of the time, you're going to see things on the internet that you're just going to go, oh boy, scroll, right?
That's 4chan in a nutshell. Oh boy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like to hang around these places, as you were saying, you like to watch, right? And there are some strange people around. But be prepared to scroll. Learn to scroll. Learn to just ignore things you don't like because you are never gonna make the world as you want. And I would argue you shouldn't because if everybody made the world exactly what they want, it's going to clash because everybody has a different idea how things should work. So learn to scroll. Learn to ignore. Now we've already gone a little bit on this. One of yours again, Meg. You are a brand. You talked about hiring, which is awesome. I'm glad I run this segment and you weren't running it and looking at my social media history. So yes, again, be careful what you say.
Basically, I think it's really important not only to remember that, but I think if you're going to talk a little bit more about like what you do on the internet, it's really important to remember not to be complacent with your data privacy as well. So essentially, it isn't breaking news. Don't be complacent with what you put your personal information
tagging yourself
online.
in things, where your friends tag you in.
Using the same password for all your accounts, like all that kind of stuff as well. But not only that, if
metadata.
Bad people are going to access the internet regardless, and if they really want to hack into your shit, they're going to. So it's really important to remember that if you let your phone know when you're walking, cycling, doing a yoga class, or you're on the bus, you're on transport with your GPS signal turned on, essentially your Google, your Apples, your Samsungs will know where you are. And that's like in brackets, like not at home. So if they want to find out when to break into your house, they're going to have all that information real quick.
And I think like people are really complacent about that because people want it to be like an easy, I can track all this and I can track all that.
Convenience.
And I don't know what it is. Everyone seems really comfortable with that. And I'm like, why does it, like, how hard is it for me to remember?
Bliss.
How hard is it for me to remember that I'll probably walked about 3Ks if I have a look at the map. 2 seconds to put it. Oh no, it's easy for me to just wear a thing that always tracks me with a GPS to space that America owns and connects straight to all my Google Why?
I would at this point direct everybody watching to look further in Serious Business at an interview, our first Serious Business with Scott Ludlam, where we talked about metadata and how metadata can be misused. Now, that's still relevant several years later.
It's so relevant, even more today.
Yeah, so go look up that video. It's one of these. And in fact, you pointed out in one of yours earlier, your Fitbit.
Honestly, your Fitbit nowadays have heart rate monitors, so they're going to know if you're sleeping, doing something, but also having a heart attack. And Siri is going to know what you're having for dinner because you're going to get your recipes.
Those three things could all be the same thing.
Add that to things like the My Health, like thing, like all the recent stuff the government's had to deal with on that. And it's like, it's not that hard to make a compelling picture for something. They tell you that they anonymise your details, but all it takes is one identifying and it'll just link everything.
Those T's and C's are really quick, and sometimes you can't even utilise your phone properly to its maximum capacity if you don't tick that bloody box. Like my TV has a voice control, voice command in it. Now Alexa, it's becoming more and more mainstream to have gadgets that take your voice into under. It's ridiculous.
One that's very important, and we don't have to go on this too far, but you will not win. I don't know how much I can stress this. Look, you're not going to win. You're not going to win an argument on the internet, so don't try. That's where it goes back to these three things. Just calm down at some point, because the fact is you can't win the argument. It's a bit like road rage, and people say anonymity is a problem, but it's more it's people are having their little anger in their bubble and moving to somewhere else over an anger. Just, you're not going to win. Don't try and win. I want to be very clear though. You're actually arguing for the people watching now. And you said earlier, Megan said that she watches. She's like an observer, and there are a lot of people who are the active people on, say, Twitter. Is a very low number. I reckon it might be only in the thousands of genuinely active people on Twitter. Everybody else is there just to watch people be idiots,
That's
right?
right.
So the way you conduct yourself, consider that that's not for the person you're arguing against, because you're not going to change their mind. They already made their mind up. If you're arguing with a flat earther or an anti-vaxxer or something like that, you're not going to change your mind. But you are how you conduct yourself, you should consider, is for the people watching.
Well, and that was what I said, like, when I was having to show this anti-vax, was I said, hopefully people can read this and understand just how like, how hurtful your argument is to increasing people's understanding of this problem. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't, I knew straight, because you got to remember, it's called social media. It's not called private media. It's not called in-group media.
Turning into private media.
Yeah, that's a different conversation. But, like, the idea is there are eyes on you basically all the time. So you need to be wary of that and aware of that when you're making these points. And it is that thing of, like you say, you're not going to win the fight. Like, I've done it to plenty of people. I'm just like, unfriend, blocked them, can't be bothered wasting my time with. It's like, if they're that much of a gronk, I'm just like, cool. Yeah, like,
I'm a fan of scrolling, because I think one of the things people do when they get blocked is they're very, very proud of it. And you see that on Twitter. Oh, that person blocked me, therefore I won the argument. So just scroll and mute if you have to. Now, something which kind of touched on all these, you was talking about, on the internet, people tell lies.
Yeah.
Now, that's my clickbait headline for your point, which is about fake news.
100%. It's thanks to social media and it being so easy to share content now, with something you scroll past in the flick of an eye and it has the catchiest goddamn heading you've ever seen, and you feel like you've read the whole article by reading the article.
Catchy headline like people tell lies?
Yeah, exactly. Spot on. But it's really important to understand what fake news is compared to sponsored, native, user-generated and sponsored content. There are so many different variations, all paid and, organic, but I think it's been around for generations and only amplified now because of one click of a
National
button.
Enquirer and all those crazy magazines. Oh, we saw Bigfoot, or this crazy person did this.
Well, they're normal now.
Yeah, and it's basically the best and worst part of social media is that it's given everyone a platform, but it's given everyone a platform.
Correct.
Ignorance has a platform now, and so, like, you can have people go, oh, share this random news that just straight up isn't true, and being able to differentiate that is something they used to teach in English class. I haven't been to school in 12 years, so I don't know. So hopefully they still do. But differentiating, like, emotive and nonsense arguments as opposed to real arguments was something they used to teach.
Being able to identify, like, now we are in a time where people are getting their news headlines from Facebook more than they are from an actual free-to-air channel, like news show, or even reading from theheraldsun.com.au. Yeah.
George Cullen said famously, think about how stupid the average person is and
realise half the population is stupid them.
But yeah, fake news is important to be able to differentiate and understand. I do believe when you post links, instead of just posting a link with little, adding your own clickbait headline like they're all going to jail or something like that, add something that indicates you've read it, because often the headlines are different to the article, and so add something at least for your readers that shows that you've understood what you're reading or the key points out of that. Jason will still get triggered on most things I post, but it is important to at least indicate that you didn't just see the headline and post it, because it then furthers your little bubble.
Yeah, imagine being like a student these days and actually utilising online content for like assignments and things like that. Check your sources. I think it's really, it'd be really hard now.
Most teachers still won't let you use Wikipedia.
Legit.
And they shouldn't.
Yeah, that's right.
There's one guy that's done like 10,000 articles on Wikipedia. He's not an expert in any of them.
Ledbible.com.
Look, I think I often say to people, like I said earlier, you can't control internet randomness, you can't control yourself. The other thing to remember is that the internet is people. What you see is what we really are. And we built this amazing communications technology so we can talk to anybody anywhere in the world, and then we decide we actually don't like everybody, which is a bit of a problem. But it's even more of a concern than that. We should be a little bit careful what we're doing, because in the last few years, there's been a push towards censorship on the internet and protecting us from each other and in a way ourselves. Now, if we want to censor the internet, and then the calls for that are growing, we have to understand that the internet we have then isn't one where our feelings are protected and where minorities are taken care of. It's one where you won't hear about an environmental disaster, you won't hear about a banking robbery effectively when they take it off us, you won't hear about corporate mistreatment, you won't hear about police brutality, those things you will never hear ever again. And you won't be able to organise against the government if you think they're tyrannical. The internet you'll get, if we end up asking for censorship to protect us from each other, will be one where the only minority that's protected is the 1%, and the only feelings that are taken care of are the feelings of the very, very rich and the very, very famous. So it's very important that we learn how to conduct ourselves better on the internet, and we learn how to disagree with each other, and we learn how to not get along